Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a foundation review and wear test on the Shameless Foundation by Marc Jacobs. I was very kindly sent this little PR send out with some of the foundations. So I've got the shade in Y110, in Y210 and Y270. So I fake tan, so this is a great selection of shades for me for when I'm not fake tan, lightly fake tan and really fake tan. So I'm really excited to put this to the test. Now I have played with it a little bit off camera already. I did actually try to sit down and film this review the other day and it was a bit of a fail. So I have a lot to talk about in today's video, so just forewarning you, I'm going to be talking a lot. So this foundation will be available from Sephora in Australia and in the US. It's going to retail for 70 Australian dollars and 46 US dollars. It contains 32 mils or 1.08 fluid ounces, which is around average. Most foundations are anywhere between 30 to 35 mils. Well, for plastic packaging, it actually still looks quite luxurious. Like it's not overly basic looking and it doesn't feel cheap even though it's plastic, but the fact that it's plastic is going to mean it's really great for traveling. So the foundation actually comes in 29 shades. So each of the shades are labeled with either a Y or an R. So the Y stands for warm golden and yellow undertones, which is what I typically lean towards, and the R is for cool rosy red undertones. So it says it is suitable for sensitive, normal, dry, combination and oily skin types. It says it has a natural finish. So to me, a natural finish would mean it's not overly matte, but it's not overly dewy. It's just sort of somewhere in between. So I guess we shall see. They do recommend to use the Marc Jacobs coconut primer beforehand. I don't have that, but I do have the Too Faced Hangover primer, which is apparently very similar, and this is also my favorite primer anyway. Let's just get stuck into it. So a little bit about my skin. I am a combination skin type, so I tend to get quite oily throughout the day on my forehead. I find the rest of my face is usually either normal to dry, depending on the weather. Now I have been deathly sick with a terrible cold, so I have a lot of dry crusty skin around my nose at the moment, and I'm still blowing my nose a lot. So it might be a bad day to do a wear test because obviously the foundation is not going to last around this part of my face at all, but we'll just put that aside and we'll concentrate on everything else. Other than that, the texture of my skin seems to be pretty good at the moment. It feels good, it feels plump, it feels smooth, so I don't really think I have any other problem areas. I just have like my normal patches of pigmentation, which is in particular worse on my left side than it is on my right side. So this is the pigmentation I'm talking about, this patch here. I typically find that anything that's not a full coverage foundation does not cover this, but usually if I add some Shape Tape, it's a-okay. And then this is the other side of my face where my cheek is pretty flawless. Like the pigmentation isn't too bad, but I have like a scab on the inner corner of my nose from blowing it so much. So I've already moisturized my face using my Estee Lauder Micro Algae Moisturizer. This is just a really great daytime moisturizer. It's what I reach for, and it usually works with every single foundation I ever wear. And I've also used my Dr. Dennis Gross Hydrating Eye Cream. I feel like so pasty today. Like even though I have that foundation in my fair shade, I'm actually going to use the shade up because I just don't feel like being because I'm sick, I just feel really washed out. So we're just going to bring it down our neck because it's cold here in Australia now at the moment. I've got long sleeves on, so it's not going to matter. Yeah. So next up, time to prime. Now this is my favorite primer. You guys already know the drill. It's a Too Faced Hangover primer. It is apparently very similar to the Marc Jacobs Coconut Primer. This is just really nice, very hydrating, and makes my skin feel super smooth. Now they do actually recommend applying this foundation with a brush, and I have to say, when I attempted to try it for the first time the other day, it looked disgusting with the brush. Like you guys know I gravitate towards brushes for foundation without fail, no matter what foundation I use, because I find using a brush will usually make my foundation more full coverage, and I'm all about that full coverage life. However, in this circumstance, no honey, it was not good. I'm going to insert the clips because I did record the first part of it, but then I had somewhere to be and it looked that bad that I actually had to take it off. There's no way I was going out of the house like that. Like I wouldn't do it for YouTube. I wouldn't do it for the views. I wouldn't do it for anything. There's no way. There was no way. I was really hesitant to pick this up again. Like it put me right off. I was like, I don't know if I even want to review it now. So I got my Sigma 3D HD blender out last night. I just like primed and moisturized this side of my face, and I applied it with the blender, and it actually looked quite nice. So I was like, oh, thank gosh. So based on first impressions, I would not use the brush. And then out of curiosity last night, I then tried to apply it with the brush on this side of my face again, and exact same thing happened. It went streaky, it dried so quickly that I didn't have time to work with it. And the brush also really like sucked up the product. Like you can see on the Kabuki brush where the foundation just totally sucked up into my brush. So I don't know if it's something to do with the formula or what, but I would, don't do it. Don't use a brush. Just my personal experience. So we're going to use the 3D blender. That was a long way of telling you that story, but I felt like it was necessary to tell you guys, because if you buy it and you go and use a brush, you might have the same breakdown that I had. So okay, so I'm just going to take some of my Fix Plus quickly and spritz my face. I always shake all my foundations just to make sure the pigment and the formula is all mixed together properly. Now this is like a little squeezy tube foundation, so you just simply unscrew the lid and this is what the actual bottle looks like. I feel like it kind of smells like very slightly sunscreeny, not bad by any means though. And also I forgot to say, at the time I'm putting this on, it is like 10:30 on the dot. So this is just with one layer. As you guys can see, you can still see that pigmentation on the left side of my face a fair bit. Like I would consider this more of like a light coverage at the moment, and that's obviously like using a sponge, you're going to get a lighter coverage, like that's a given. But like I said, I just found it was like impossible to blend out on my skin with a brush, so I feel like I really have no option but to use a sponge with it. So I'm just going to try and like build up a little bit of coverage in the areas that I feel like I need a little bit more coverage. If I can't do it with the foundation, I would just do it with my Shape Tape concealer, and I will be like powdering my face down as I usually would too, so I will get a little bit more coverage when I do that. But I'm just sort of wanting to see if it layers nicely, because the foundation is totally dry at the moment, so I want to see if it goes on top of already dry foundation nicely. And it's interesting too, because I don't feel like the sponge really sucks up that much of the product, to be honest. I mean, overall it feels pretty matte. I feel like it looks okay on my skin right now. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to conceal the rest of my face, but I'm just going to get up close and personal so you guys can see what the foundation looks like without concealer and powder and everything. Looks pretty good on my forehead and between my eyes. Looks pretty good around my nose considering how dry and crusty my nose is. My big old schnoz. And it definitely feels like matte, but you can certainly still see pigmentation. Okay, so now I have my foundation all set. Now they do say this foundation doesn't need to be set, but it's a bit like the Fenty Beauty one as well. They say that doesn't need to be set. However, I found that when I didn't set it, my foundation didn't wear as well throughout the day. And I also find setting my face with a MAC Mineralized Skin Finish just gives me that little bit more extra coverage that I yearn for, and it just makes my skin look a little bit more flawless. So I never not set my foundation with those powders. Like they are my holy grails. They are what I use time and time again. So I use them for under my eyes and also all over my face. So that is what I've done. At the moment, it's not like my most favorite looking foundation. Like I can see it sitting on my skin, if that makes sense. But once my face sort of warms up the product, I always find that my foundation tends to look a little bit nicer. So it's now 10:45, so I guess we'll just see if it warms up nicely to my skin. I think I will actually go in with some Fix Plus because I feel like I just kind of need it. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to take my Fix Plus. I'm just going to let that dry down, and then I'm going to go in with the rest of my makeup and I'll come back and talk to you guys then. Okay guys, it is 12:30 now, so I've had this foundation on for a couple of hours. All of my makeup went on top of the foundation beautifully. There is literally zero complaints. It actually went on very nicely, especially my contour I felt. Now the only place I'm not overly happy with how it's looking at the moment is my nose, but in the foundation's defense, I have just blown it, and like I said in my intro, I've been sick, so it is quite crusty at the moment, and considering how crusty it is, it actually kind of looks quite decent around my nostrils still where I have that little scab. It looks really nice like around my brows, around my chin. I ended up putting some concealer on that bit of pigmentation that I have there, and that just helped to give that little bit of extra coverage. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty happy with how it's looking like on the skin right now. Now the test is just to see how well it lasts on my skin and how long it stays like this. So I've got to go run some errands and do a couple of things in town. So I'll go do that and I'll come check back in with you guys this afternoon once I've had it on for like 5-6 hours. Okay guys, so it is nearly 3:30, so I've had this foundation on now for about 5 hours. When I was just about to leave to go in town, I sort of like looked in the mirror and I wasn't too sure about how I felt about how my skin was looking. Like, I felt like it didn't look the best that it's looked, but then I had to go to a couple of different shops, pay some money on a lay-by. I met up with my mum and the ladies in the shop said my skin looked really nice. So they thought it looked good, and then my mum also said my skin looked beautiful. She said my skin looked really flawless, and she loved the look of like my overall makeup, but in particular my skin looked flawless. So I'm guessing it was just me that maybe was being super critical. And then Brett's here, and I just asked him off camera what he thought of it as well. And what did you say, honey? Just looks the same as usual. So like, yep, the usual standard. I feel like the foundation, it's getting better the longer that I'm wearing it. Obviously, where I've been blowing my nose is a little bit patched off, like what I said earlier, because I have blown my nose a lot already. Maybe like another 4 or 5 times since I last checked in. But I mean, considering I've blown my nose a couple of times, not actually looking too bad. And sorry if my eyes are getting really red. You guys know I have a genetic eye disease, and they just get red. They just get red, especially when I'm getting tired, and I'm getting tired. So I'm just going to touch my nose up a little bit. So I'll just show you guys what I would usually do. Like after I blow my nose, I would just take some concealer, and I'm just using the Too Faced Born This Way one because it's a bit more hydrating. So it should hopefully like go over the top of my old makeup a little bit more nicely. And I'm just taking my Sigma blender and just patting it around my nose and just smoothing it back out a little bit. So there's an up close look at my skin. I think that pigmentation is maybe popping through a little bit more than what it was before. But yeah, that's my 5-hour check-in. So I shall check back in with you guys at about 8 hours. I may or may not have taken my lashes off by then. I might be looking really disheveled in 8 hours. We'll see, because I'm going to go start editing. And once I start editing, I usually can't handle having lashes on. So we'll just see how I go. And I'll check back in with you guys then. Hey guys, so I am back for my final check-in. It is nearly 6:30, so I've had it on for nearly 8 hours. Overall, oil-wise, totally fine. No dramas, not oily in the slightest. Tiny little bit of shine, nothing bad. It hasn't really broken up or anything at all on my face. However, I'm a little bit on the fence. So I was looking back at the footage, and something I noticed on camera, which I didn't actually notice in person because I've got like eye issues and my eyes were a little bit sore today. So I didn't really pick up on it when I was like looking at myself in the mirror, but it does kind of like settle into my pores a fair bit. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't know if I've ever noticed foundations really doing that on my skin before. Like, I don't hate it, and it's not like I'll not use the foundation, but I just noticed when I was watching back the footage, you can definitely see it settled in my pores, on my cheeks, and around my mouth and around my chin. In saying that, I do have like slightly enlarged pores. Like, I don't have the smallest pores in the world, but I also don't have the biggest pores either, if that makes sense. And I also forgot to do a flash test earlier and talk about it, but I just sat down and did a bunch just before in my camera roll. They're terrible photos, so I'm going to hold the camera back here because I look disgusting in the photos. But there's no flashback. They are totally correct in that sense. I can't see any flashback in the photo at all. I look a bit shiny with the flash. Bit more shiny than what I feel like in real life, but there was no flashback. I'm going to have to keep testing this foundation. Moral of the story is it needs some more wear. So although this is now my 3rd time sort of trying it, I feel like I still need practice with it. And yeah, I'm determined to make it work though, because I really want to love it. So anywho, I hope you guys found this review helpful. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up if it was, and if you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely do that. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. Do you think it looks nice on my skin, or am I overreacting, or do you agree? Is it not the best on my skin? Like, what do you guys think? I'm always curious. So I'm going to go take off my makeup now and have some dinner, and I'll be talking to you all really soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.